you're watching For the Win. I'm Mellisa Idris, and I have with me our regular guest back on the show, Shankar Santiram. He's the managing consultant of EQTD Consulting. Welcome back, Shankar.
Thank you so much, Mellisa. And it is a regular show as opposed to just repeats every week with just me because I'm wearing black all the time, right?
So it's been 4 episodes in. We've got an arc of 10 shows. So this is episode number 5 that we're shooting here at the co-working space Common Ground in Menara KL 33. So Shankar, while you're a regular for the Win, you're also a regular on radio. So
That's
Light.
Right. I'm on Light FM.
No
it's
longer
no
FM.
longer FM. I
That's
keep
right.
being reminded. It's just called Light Malaysia. I'm on Light Malaysia every morning at 6:50 and then again at 9:10, and I have a segment called The Right Perspective with Shankar Santiram, which comes on the breakfast show with Shaz.
Perfect. So you can catch him on radio and on TV. Now, for the past few weeks, we've been talking about what it means to have purpose. Last week, we spoke about hopefulness and having a hope-filled attitude. This week, we want to talk about confidence, right? So how having a confident attitude can actually make an enormous difference in your professional life.
It really does. I think the prerequisite for most people is in terms of success or in terms of wanting to get anything that you want in your life. Because I think I define success in some ways differently from others. I mean, we've all got our own definition of what success means. But I think in the kind of at the most rudimentary or the simplest way to describe any success that you have in your life is we all want certain things in our life. We want things. Now that could be a relationship, that could be a job, that could be a new car, that could be a holiday.
So it can be material and also, intangible.
It can be material, it can also be spiritual, it can be emotional. That's what we're looking for. And when we get what we want, then it's success.
Right.
Success is getting what you want.
Okay.
The big problem most of the time is, I think for most people, we confuse success and happiness. Right? And everyone
we confuse
thinks
success and happiness.
I think this is there is a distinction to be drawn between success and happiness. I have been successful at things, meaning I've wanted something, I've got it.
Right.
Have I been happy after that? No.
Ooh.
Has that not happened to you?
Where's the disconnect then?
Well, because we think we want something and we go for it, and then once we get that, like for example, years and years ago, a job that I wanted. I wanted to be the head of the law department. I'm a lawyer by training. Head of the law department at the private institution of higher learning that I was working at. Eventually I got that job.
Okay.
And I was fairly young when I became, and the title I had at the time was Director of Professional Studies. Right? That was the
impressive.
title.
Sounds very impressive.
At the age of 26, right?
Okay.
Fantastic.
So quite achievement.
Huge achievement, I thought. And the money was pretty decent, so immediately I went and bought a car and got into debt and all sorts of other things, which young and foolish people do, including me. I did that. But then 3 months after getting the job, I was the most miserable person in the institution, in that college. I hated going to work every day because I was successful in achieving the target that I wanted, and my confident attitude helped me get there as a 25, 26-year-old to be given that particular job. And I keep telling the people around me, I only got that job because of the perceived ability that I had, not necessarily the actual ability that I had,
Perceived ability.
Yeah.
So you were confident because you perceived that you could do it.
No, I was confident, and that confidence gave the perception to everyone else that I could do it.
Okay.
I think that's essentially the deal with life.
Okay, so if we were to kind of take a step back and look at what makes confidence, so what makes a person, you look at someone and say, that's a confident person. Mellisa, you're a confident person. What is that made up of?
Efficacy, more than anything else.
Really?
Right? I think a confident attitude essentially means that you look at something. So I write a column in the newspaper every Friday.
NST?
Yeah, in the New Straits Times every Friday, in the Business Times. It's called Work Matters. And it's 850 words, right? And it's and I know exactly how much I need to write.
Right.
Because it's 2 pages on Microsoft Word, A4, Times New Roman, 12 points.
Okay.
All right, and I do have a little word count down the bottom, and I write it. Now, I've just written my 147th column.
Oh, wow.
Right, so that's like, 3 years almost of writing. It seems like an easy thing to do for someone who, as my mom would say, talks as much as I do.
She's not wrong.
But it kills me every week. Every week on Tuesday or Wednesday I sit, and it just kills me, right? Because I'm not a journalist. I don't have something to report on. There is no actual event or something happening that I can write about, right? So I have to conjure something up every week. And when I first started, I found it really, really difficult to write. Because what am I going to write about?
Right.
And as I started writing, it's interesting. Firstly, I became better at writing. So I could knock an 850-word article out in, say, a couple of hours.
Okay.
That was the first part. And I thought, oh, I can do this. This is difficult, but not that difficult.
You're getting the hang
I'm
of
getting
it.
the hang of it.
Yeah.
That's the first part, right? The second part, the real confidence booster as such, was when people started responding to my columns. So people would write to me on Instagram, or would write to me on Facebook, or people would see me, or I'd be running a training program or a public program somewhere, and someone would come up to me and say, "Are you so and so?
Oh, wow.
I read your column." And
That is a
just
confidence boost.
Just a couple of weeks ago, I was at a theatre production by the indomitable Joe Kukatas.
Instant Cafe.
Instant Cafe, May 9th, and I was waiting to go in with my wife. We were standing outside, and this man tapped me in the shoulder, literally, like that tap on the shoulder, and I went like, "Hi, by the way, are you Shankar Sansaram? Because I read your column every week on Friday." I tell you, kembang pala besar. At that time, a huge hit at that time.
Right.
Really, oh my God, I've got like name recognition.
Okay.
So this immediately, my next two columns after that, just like half an hour came out. You know why? It's interesting. It's that confidence, right? But that confidence always comes with competence. I always say you only get confident when you have competencies.
I
And
agree.
this is where most people fail. They don't help themselves by increasing their competencies.
Okay.
They concentrate
It
on just
feels like a
wanting to
cycle.
be. It's a complete cycle. It's cyclical.
All
Absolutely.
right. Okay, we're going to come back and talk about this cycle of building confidence and also how to not mistake arrogance for confidence right here on For the Win. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Mellisa Idris. I've got Shankar Santaram from EQTD Consulting here with me. We're talking about confidence. Now, just before the break, you talked about how confidence comes with competence, right? And it's cyclical, so the more competent you become at something, the more confident you are at that skill, at that job. So talk to me about where arrogance fits in. Is that just the spillover of confidence?
No.
Okay.
It's got nothing to do with confidence.
Because confident people are often mistaken or often said, why are you so arrogant,
You will find that there is a huge difference between being aggressive and being assertive. Right?
Okay.
Now,
Aggressive and
confident people are usually quite assertive. They have self-efficacy. They believe in what they are saying. They're really interested in sharing ideas with you because they know that, through my experience, through my work processes, my work product, I've achieved this type of result. So
Right.
I'd like all of us as an organization, as a group, or as a project to head in that particular direction. Right? That's what confident people do.
Right.
Now, aggressive people pick fights with everyone. Aggressive people want to stand up and tell you that they are right. Confident people want to win. And there is a huge difference. That's what the show's called, For the Win. It's not
Right.
for the right. You know what I mean? It's nothing for the right. Who's interested
That's
in
not as catchy as For the Win.
Who's interested in whether you're right or wrong? Nobody cares whether you're right,
Right.
or wrong, right? People want to be part of a winning team. I want to be part of a winning
Results,
team.
right?
Absolutely. That is why every time Malaysia gets to the final of the Suzuki Cup, and suddenly everybody is walking around with yellow jerseys. And that's, for those people who don't know, the Suzuki Football, AFF, the Asian Football Federation. I have to premise this.
Just in case people don't know.
Just in case people
Yeah.
don't get it. Or every time, Malaysia gets to the semi-finals of the Thomas Cup or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
immediately you put on yellow jerseys and everybody thinks they are Miss Boon and, Chong
Yes,
Wei,
yes,
wandering
yes.
around. Every gate in every taman becomes a badminton net. Right? Because we attach ourselves. There's something very visceral about attaching ourselves to winning teams. That's also why, for example, the English Premier League is played in England, but there are more Manchester United, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Tottenham Hotspur, Manchester City fans here than in most other parts of the world.
Well.
Or in Thailand or whatever, because they are winning teams. It's a
Right.
perception. So I think there is a huge difference between people who are confident and people who are arrogant.
Okay.
A lot of arrogance is, I think, through my experience, and even through my own practice. People have called me arrogant in the past. People still call me arrogant here sometimes now, but when I do some action research, look at my own actions and think about why I was that way, I've worked out the only times when I can truly put my hand to my heart and say that I have been arrogant has been those times when I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I have essentially been quite defensive. If someone calls me out on something and I don't want to look stupid, right? So what I do is I fight back, and that fight back is always born out of arrogance.
Okay, so the defensiveness. So
Purely.
you can tell the difference between confidence and arrogance if it's the underlying defensiveness. So if you're defensive when someone calls you out, that means you check yourself and go, well, that was just me being arrogant and not being confident.
You need that. You need to be able to do that.
Check yourself,
and
yes.
that's what we need to be working towards. And if you want any form of lasting success in your career, or any form of lasting success in any endeavor, you need to know and you need to call yourself out all the time. I always tell people that, self-awareness is not some esoteric concept. You don't have to go and sit at the mountain somewhere and have revelations about, you don't have to sit under a Bodhi tree, or you don't have to, meditate for months to get there.
To achieve self-awareness.
Self-awareness comes with you understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are, leveraging on your strengths, and working really hard on overcoming your weaknesses.
Okay, so...
But sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there.
But
Just one thing, right? I mean, overcoming your weaknesses, Mellisa.
Yeah.
You have to accept that you have a weakness before you can even overcome it.
Right.
And
so
that's fundamentally the
be
problem.
aware of that.
Well, the problem with arrogance is that, isn't it?
that you're not aware.
I don't know. I'm not. No, you know what? There's something wrong with me.
It's the bodoh sombong concept,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's right. Well, the thing is, I guess I'm wondering, precisely along these lines about admitting or kind of acknowledging to yourself that you have weaknesses. It becomes, I guess, the problem with confidence for many people is the inner critic, right? So while many people are not just aware of their weaknesses, they amplify it often in their head, and it beats down on self-confidence. So how do we kind of make sure that inner critic is not louder than your inner praise to say, well, you're good at these things?
Well, I think the first thing we need to all understand, perhaps, is do an evaluation of what your strengths and weaknesses are, and be quite honest about it. And don't start by looking at your weaknesses, start by looking at your strengths.
Okay.
I always tell the people that I coach, start by looking at your strengths. Because when you look at your strengths, right, so means, so I know I have weaknesses.
Right.
So I start off with the premise, even the most, person who lacks confidence, or the person who is, beating
critical,
and
yes.
self-critical and constantly limits themselves, I say start off with this. I'm sure there is absolutely something that you're good at.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
And sometimes they will think about it, scratch their head, and then go like, actually, I'm quite good at this. I go, let's concentrate on why you're good at that. Now, what happens is when you start thinking about what you're good at, you start resonating yourself. And it sounds like a really hokey, cliched idea, but you start vibrating, or you start resonating at a level of hope again.
Back to what we talked about last week.
Right.
Yes.
You become quite hopeful and go like, hey, aku ni bukan teruk sangat. You know what I mean? I'm okay, I can do this.
Right.
I can do that. Now, once you reach that level of resonance, then you turn around and you say to people, or yourself, not to people, you say to yourself, okay, I'm good at this. What am I bad at?
Okay.
I'll give you an example,
Okay.
right? Just for me personally, it's maybe a real example, especially if anyone who's actually watched our show the last few weeks. And I said this to you as soon as I came just now. I watched the show last week's show, right? I watched it again a couple of times. And earlier, I interrupted you, and then I apologized for interrupting you.
Right.
The reason why I did that is because I watched the show last week. I interrupted you so many times.
Okay.
And I got scolded by my wife. My wife was sitting and watching the show with me, and she said, like, can you stop interrupting Mellisa?
She's got my back,
She's got your
Susie.
back.
Straight.
Susie's got your back, right? So today I came, I could have been completely arrogant about this and say like, you know what, I am the guest, you want my opinion, Mellisa.
Right.
So you ask a short question, I will deliver my sermon after that, right?
Okay.
And that's not going to work out, because the viewer and you and I mean, I think the nicest thing about what we do is our banter, is the connection that we both have.
Right.
And we're talking about real things that affect both of us.
Sure.
And I
You get personal about it.
we do. And you see, I didn't interrupt you then, I allowed you to. But you see, it's that was a weakness. So the moment you can, I'm not sure, I'm sure our producers will tell us whether I did better this week or not, but the moment you can actually see, the moment you understand that you have a weakness, then you can work on dealing with it.
Right.
Right?
It
But if you get
becomes that
debilitated
by
by
that
that
weakness.
weakness, You need to be, that's where your own personal self-awareness comes. We go back to right at the beginning, the first episode about purpose. Why do you do what you do? The moment you understand that, then you go, I do have a problem, so I'm going to work on that problem and I'm going to become better. These are steps that we take.
You're showing a lot of self-awareness right now. So we're going to come back and talk about what a confident attitude means, because, you know, we're talking about confidence, what it means and what we want to get out of it from life. We'll be right back right here on For the Win. Stay with us. Hello, welcome back. You're watching For the Win. I'm Mellisa Idris with Shankar Santaram, talking about confidence. Shankar, so we know it's important to have a confident attitude, but what does it bring us? How does it affect our lives? Are the tangible things that comes with having a confident attitude?
When I'm asked to do something, right, and often my nature is such that, you know, I want to experiment and I want to try everything, and you know, I mean, like the first time I was asked to be on television, for example, to do a show of this nature a few years ago, also on Astro, I said, yeah, sure, definitely, fantastic, excellent, I want to be on TV, great stuff, right? So get up and I go. And then my wife asked me, like, how do you do that? You know, I just won't have the confidence to go and sit in front of the television. Firstly, I'm a bit of a show-off, so I kind of like, you know, the idea of being on TV, right? That's a good idea. But when I analyze it a bit further, I believe in what I say, right? So the work that I do, when I stand up in front of a group of people and speak about, say, purpose, or speak about customer service, or speak about leadership, or when I do my leadership coaching, I truly believe what I'm saying, right? I believe it because I dive into the recesses of my own mind and think about how I've overcome stuff, and I share those ideas with them. So I have that. So the competency, it starts off with that competency. Now, approaching any situation or any problem with a sense or with confidence means, for me personally, the likelihood of us succeeding just grows exponentially.
Okay.
Right? Can you imagine approaching every problem with like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I don't know whether I can do this or not. Will I,
does that just, you know, make it worse? I mean, it's not helping, is it?
Completely. When you're chamas about everything,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's the word, right? Malay,
Anxious,
when you become really anxious and you start panicking about everything. I know people I work with, right? In the businesses that I run, where every damn thing is a damn problem.
Right.
Right? So I get so exhausted working with people like
That's
this.
exactly the word, exhausted.
Exhausted. So you present a new idea to your partner, you present a new idea to your boss, right? Or you present a new idea to one of your subordinates, and immediately they will give you a litany of reasons why that thing won't work.
Okay.
And you go like, really?
Right.
Really, you can't see a glimmer of hope that this might actually bring us great benefit? And then you have to fight through it, you have to break them down, you have to hold their hand, and then finally when it's done, they go like, not bad, no? We can do this, it's good. And then they feel the sense of achievement. And so I always tell them at that point when we have achieved something, I say, like, can you remember this?
Okay. So next time you skip the anxiety part and the, poking holes into something.
Where is the fundamental problem all the time? We can't remember. We don't remember our successes.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And then there are some people. So then you have the problem of being overconfident, right? I have been accused of being overconfident about businesses sometimes.
So misplaced confidence.
Well, when you believe in your own hype sometimes, like my wife accuses me of, well, once in a while I believe in my own hype. The danger for me, for example, is to believe I can do everything.
Is that a danger? Why is that a danger?
It is a danger because when I think I can do everything all the time, then I don't put enough effort to research, I don't put enough effort to actually learn new competencies. I have to learn new competencies. So that is why when I watched the show on Monday last week with my wife, she said, stop gloating about how good you are, watch and see where your mistakes are. And I thought, thank you for reminding me about this, because this helps me understand how to increase my own efficiency, efficacy, competence.
Okay.
And this is what we need to remember. So there are the two sides to this problem. With confidence, one is the lack of confidence in terms of getting and approaching any particular situation. We all need to cultivate a certain amount of self-efficacy and self-belief and tell yourself, I do this to myself. Sounds hokey, but I say I back myself to do this.
Okay.
Right? You
All
know
right.
what? You know, we back certain people, right?
Yes.
All of us, you know, we it's
Why,
like we
and why
punt
not?
with something.
Why not back yourself?
Back
Right.
yourself.
Yeah. Good.
That's the first part, right?
Okay.
So firstly, back the right horse, which is you.
You will always, you'll never lose if you back
Back the
yourself.
right horse.
Right.
Second one is don't overback your horse to the point where you don't learn stuff.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I like that point.
Yeah.
Chandra.
So
yeah, I think that's important.
You know, any I have a benchmark for myself right now. Any new idea, the new idea must equally freak me out and excite me.
Oh, so you know you're not in a comfort zone.
So when it equally freaks and excites me, then I know that it's right. So when I want to start, like I'm looking at some new businesses at the moment for my own, changing some of my businesses or reiterating them. And I go, when I have this new idea right now, I got to pull back and go, does this frighten me? It has to frighten me.
Okay.
Because if it does not frighten me, then I'm overconfident that I can pull it off. It has to frighten me enough that I go and research, I go read, I go and find stuff out, and I'm carefully thinking about the steps I need to take.
Okay,
right?
I really like that, Shankar, because there is a fine line, you know, when the scales tipped from being confident to overconfident. The minute you feel that you're not learning anything new, you're not increasing your competence, you're not, you know, frightened, excited by it, that's when you know the scales have tipped to the other side. Okay, that's a good point.
That means you know there's a problem.
Yes.
There. And that means you are most likely going to fail in your
Okay,
endeavor.
okay.
And the other thing about confidence is
Number 3?
actually failing and bouncing back from it, right? So every single time you fail and you get debilitated by failure, it erodes your confidence. But every time you fail, but you fight back and you say, I'm going to learn from the mistakes I make, you do action research, look at your own actions and break it down and say, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have said that, I should have done this differently. Then you take, you take action or you make reparations in your own attitude. You know, you have to repair your own behavior.
Right.
Right?
So
And
failure is not a bad thing. So it won't diminish your confidence,
No,
right?
I would go further. Failure is an essential part of life. People who don't fail early enough and often enough never achieve anything.
Right. And never build that confidence, right?
You have to.
Okay.
Of course, then there are people who fail repeatedly and break down completely and need psychological help. That's also a possibility. So it's such a fine line.
It is, it is.
So we like eating, and it gives us such great joy, and it nourishes us, and it provides us tremendous satisfaction. But eating the wrong foods and eating too much will also kill us.
Sure.
So in life already, it's about balance. We like working, but if we don't have work-life balance,
Right.
you will find that you just work all the time and you will fail in every personal relationship you have, and your kids will grow up without ever knowing you. And you can say as many times as you want to your children that I'm doing all this for you. At the age of 50, you will look back, and when your son or your daughter is 25, they'll go like, you were never there for me, I have no connection with you.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
So life is always about finding balance.
Balance, that's right. So we'll find it, and it takes a certain level of self-awareness to do that. All right. We're going to come back next week with Shankar Santram of EQTD Consulting. We're going to be talking about how to build quality workplace relationships. But in the meantime, Shankar, I want to wish you Selamat Hari Raya to everyone who's celebrating this week. There's going to be...
And Selamat Hari Raya to you.
Thank you so much. I'm very
Am I coming
excited.
to your house?
Sure. It's always an open, a standing
That
invite.
didn't sound very...
Did it sound confident?
No, not...
Yes,
Okay.
Shankar. You come over to my house and I'll feed you. I'll feed you rendang and ketupat and all
Thank
that.
you.
All right, I'll catch you guys next week. Same time, same place for the Win. I'm Mellisa Idris signing off. Thank you very much.